Well, the good thing is this time I saw that my audio dropped. So welcome back. Um, yeah, I saw that the audio dropped for some reason. And again, I have a echo. So I think that what I have to do is in some way get rid of the echo, which I'ma really have to figure out some new audio situations. And so yeah, internet and technology not letting me doesn't want me to be great today, but I'm going to keep on rolling and hopefully the echo will not transmit over the broadcast and we can keep on rocking and rolling. Um, it does look like it is working. But there is definitely a delay. Okay, so back to what I was saying, the way that Black women experience the workplace is extremely different, extremely more difficult, much more challenging, right, than any other group. And so on this conversation, we're going to talk about those challenges, but we're not going to just talk about them from the standpoint of, oh, woe is me, right? And oh, I am a victim that gets the short end of the stick or the raw end, of the situation, right? What we're going to talk about is, what that actually looks like and how we put our power into place, right? How we activate our power to make our workplaces win for us, right? Like we know that we cannot fully divest from capitalism. We know that we cannot fully, walk away from the system and say, okay, well, the heck with it. I'm going to not ever have to buy or use anything that these systems and structures are built on. Now, maybe our great grandchildren, can get around to that right point, especially if we teach them how to grow their own food and we build our own networks for technology, right? Those things are definitely possible. And I have ideas for days, and I'd love to talk to some, futurists around these conversations. But, as we are talking about navigating challenges at work every day, we have to talk about how do we become our own champions. We have to talk about how do we take, you know, those aggressions and those assaults and those harmful environments, and how do we honor what that did and then use that to persevere to make the most out of these horrific workplaces. So we know, right, that there's really three components to what makes us show up in these workplaces and how we're able to, be our best selves. We know that the first part is all around the story, right? And we know that the story is based in the story that we tell ourselves. We know that the story is based in the story that other people told us. And then it's the story that we decide to believe and live out. And that story and the way we decide to believe and live it out is based on the conditioning. And that conditioning is that patriarchal, white supremacist, capitalist delusion, right? That imagination of the founding uh colonizers, right? Who decided that what they wanted to do was build up something and have it for themselves and not work for it and figure out how to get everybody to do it. Well, hey, that's all of us, y'all. That's all of us except for about 700 people that are billionaires. It's the rest of us. And even those of us, you know, who are, in the 7 or 8 figure range, right? Or even in 9 figure range, right? You're not really a capitalist like that. Now, maybe you're on the way to being one and you're trying to be one, and that's fine. But when my perspective, and I'm talking about capitalism, I'm talking about those systems and structures that make it such that they constrain how we actually live, that they actually remove our ability to be free thinkers, right? Like we feel like we have freedom and we think we have freedom and we think that we get to choose things for ourselves, like, where we work and where we live and what we get to do. No, we really don't. The systems and structures are set up such that we get to move about them in ways that these structures and systems will allow. And when we buck a system, right? You see Katanji's picture right there. When we buck a system, like the system that she bucked, right? You see what happens, right? What happens is that you know we get beat down, right? We get uh attacked, we get treated in some way, right? That is not good. It's not good for us. And eventually and moving forward, right? It's not positive for anybody else. And so the challenges that we face in the workplace, though, they're not insurmountable. The thing is, we have to look at those challenges from the standpoint of what things are in our control that we can manage, what things are in our power, right? That we can persevere and we can pursue so that we can get justice, right? So that does take us towards more collective liberation. And when I'm talking about collective liberation, I'm talking about how do we all, right? And especially as Black women, especially as Indigenous women, especially as brown women, Asian femmes, right? How do we, the disabled community, how do we, right, use our power within these spaces that are not designed to do anything to benefit us? These spaces, right, that are not designed to help us. These spaces that are not designed to welcome us. How do we still, you know, um, persevere, right? How do we still fight? How do we still show up, right? How do we still kick it, right? How do we still try to go after it, right? And do our thing so that we are still going to make it, right? And so, like, I mean, the bottom line, right, is you have to be able to understand and know, right, the truth. And you have to be able to know what the system is, what the system is up to, what the system is playing with, right? And you have to know that in order to be able to make decisions and to, figure out how you move, right? And how you navigate and how you execute. But that's not necessarily something that you're just going to know instinctively. It's not something you're going to know intrinsically. It's not something you're just going to have, off the top of your head and be able to figure out and say, okay, this is how I need to roll. But because I have had the opportunity to be in these challenging spaces, right? And I have had the opportunity to really, you know, um, see and watch and listen and observe and learn and then apply this learning, then I can, right, be that person that can coach and guide and, help to lead people. And that's one of the reasons that I do it. That's one of the reasons that I enjoy it. That's one of the reasons that, bringing a group of people together, live in person, of course, is better, but, doing it virtually and bringing people together to coach and advise and instruct them through just with some really specific, strategies that help you to know this is how you approach a situation. This is how you appreciate that a situation, right? And this is how you alleviate that situation, um right? And this is how you just turn it around, and adapt or adapt to it, so that it works for you, right? And so that's what it is. And so it's really, really trying to be clear and have a path of understanding, right, that can take you through. And so the challenges of the workplace, number one, I think you need to recognize that they're not your fault, and you did not do something to cause them, nor do you really have the opportunity on your own individually to make wholesale change, even though wholesale, wide scale, big sweeping change is possible. That takes a coalition, and we can talk about that, in other details. That's number one. Number two, back to the story, right? And the three pieces that make up, you and the whole thing. So when it comes to the story, right, of your workplace and of you and how to approach it, the story is on three levels. The story is on the level of the story that people have told you who you are. So depending on what company, what organization, who you work for, they've told you you have this title, you are worth this amount of money a year. So they have told you you are a software engineer, you are worth $97,000 a year because you have this degree from, this university, and because you are this old and you have these certifications and blah, blah, blah. They've assigned you a story. And with that assigned story comes a whole lot of information and a whole lot of uh, rules and stops along the way and things for you to do that they have told you that must happen because this is the story that they gave you. Now, before you heard this story, there was an innate story inside of you. And I wonder if my dog is dreaming about it. I hear her snoring. That innate story inside of you, you have had maybe a battle with the story that the world or your new potential boss or capitalism or the system or somebody has given you. And maybe you also have a story that's related to other people, meaning your parents or your community or your church or your school or your team, or some environment that you follow in an online community or whatever. They might have told you another story. Okay, but there is also a true story, and that true story is the story of your destiny, the story of your dreams, and is the story of your determination. And maybe you haven't discovered your story yet, but it is there. And so for you to discover your story, right, is going to take you making a decision to do that and realizing that there's going to be a little discomfort, and you're going to have to do things that you've not done before. You're going to have to navigate in a different way. You're going to have to newly newly adapt, right? Some of your old skills, right? Um, because these skills are going to be necessary to navigate change. And the change is not that you can make a change in the environment or the change in the people, not by yourself alone, but together you can, right? With a coalition. But individually, what you can do is you can make some choices and determinations to say, number one, here's the story that I'm gonna tell myself. I'm gonna show up to this job and I'm gonna do exactly what they paying me for because I know my worth. They paying me $97,000 a year when I really should be making $184,000 a year. They're hiring me at a soft engineer one. I'm really a software engineering manager or a director. They are making me work 40 hours. This job that I'm doing really only takes 30, but 8 of the hours is spent doing nonsense and bullshit because these people are incompetent. And so, right, you have to be able to tell yourself the true and the correct story. Okay. And so when you know the true and correct story, then you can start and operate in that. And that's a change. And the reason that's a change is because of conditioning. The reason that's a change is because of the switch. Now, additionally, what it adds to that, right, is the issues around communication and collaboration. Because if you're navigating, you're operating as a black woman or femme, if you navigating as an indigenous, brown, or Asian woman and femme, especially if you are in a predominantly white male environment, such as tech, such as finance, such as, any high level positions where you're doing more than just, managing the you know, entry level workers, when you're beyond managing entry level workers, when you're at that level, the knowledge worker level, the leadership level, okay, this is when the attacks start coming in a different way. This is when pet to threat becomes more obvious and overt. This is when the racism and the discrimination becomes covert. This is when you start to see all of the pieces of the intersectional puzzle fall apart and you see that there's nobody riding for black women. So back in August of 2021, I did a series about who rides for black women because back then I thought I had three or two women, right, white women that were riding for me because they claimed to be anti-racist educators and claimed to be somatic healing experts working on their own, you know, healing their own pain of racism and blah blah blah. Well, come to find out it was a bunch of bullshit because what it really boils down to, which I have learned through a whole bunch of work that I have had to do and research on anti-blackness, on internal white supremacy, on internalized white supremacy, on internalized anti-blackness, on coonery, and really how post-traumatic slave syndrome post-traumatic slave syndrome disorder shows up. I had to do a lot of study on it. I had to do a lot of research and introspection, and I had to finally acknowledge through several painful projects over the last 2 years that unfortunately at this time, but white people are not in position to do deep, deep, deep anti-racism work in conjunction side by side with black women. They're not ready to do it because the inner pain, the inner healing, the inner work necessarily for white women to break down their stuff is so deep, and that none of them have done it yet because the work is going to require a lot, and they not ready because the few that are far between, and they probably are fearful of doing it because they know they're not going to have any friends or family or relationships left that are with people that are not black after they go through this experience. And so that's one of the communities that I'm building right now. That community is called the Future Vanguard Alliance, but going forward it's being called Honor, because it's really about honoring our past, which, is painful, but it's about healing through our power. And that power is the power that has been suppressed and subjugated and just outright, I don't even know, stolen. That's it. That's it. Suppressed, subjugated, and stolen. That's what we've been. That's what the power of the Black woman has been. And not only in these corporate workspaces, but in leadership. And so the time has come for us to take that place and take our power and honor it. And so that's a piece of the work. And so that really begins, right, with honoring your story and who are you in this moment and what does that look like. And so when you know that in the workplace that those challenges are not insurmountable because you can adjust, right? You can learn to handle these challenges and overcome these obstacles in different ways. And it takes practice, it takes persistence, but it really takes, you know, putting that power into practice. Sometimes I call it, accountability in action. And I believe that we are all accountable, right, for making sure that we are showing up for ourselves, that we are aligning to who we are. And that's a radical shift for many of us. That's a radical shift and a radical change in how we view things because we are so conditioned, right? We are conditioned to work this 9 to 5. We are conditioned to, be as acceptable as possible. We are conditioned not to get angry, right? So, on a side note, maybe I'll tell this story on the TikTok. I have workers in my house, which is why I'm not on video, but I think 3 weeks and we are going to be good. I think I'll be back on video May 12th. I think that's it. But I had these workers in my house, and obviously, I guess the man was hot as he was laying carpet or whatever. So I go to, vacuum and do whatever I'm cleaning up. And in my laundry room, I see a pair of pants. They sweatpants. Now, this little thing that he to moved to the laundry room was in a closet that was my daughter's closet, which I'm moving this stuff out because now I'm reconverting this into the studio. Um, anyway, the thing he moved out of there had like a little some baskets, and it had like some of her shirts, like t-shirts in there. So I see a pair of man pants in there. Now, my daughter is 20 years old, and yeah, she probably has some man sized pants. I don't know why, other than she likes to do like thrifting and, upselling or up shopping or whatever it's called. Um, I forgot what you call it when you recycle clothes. But I know that these pants wasn't in this closet because I have been preparing for all these workers to do work on my house. I would have noticed these pants and I would have texted them and said, "Hey, are these your pants?" Or I would have been like, "Oh my God, did one of the workers leave these pants here?" From the workers that were in my house last week. So this now is the third week I have had workers in my house. The man took off his pants and he must have left his pants here. I guess he had on shorts or whatever because these sweatpants are not my daughter's sweatpants. The worker left their damn pants here. So I say all that to say, um, I don't remember why I told you that story, but I just thought it was funny and I'm going to tell it on TikTok. But the challenges, right, that you have are not going to be insurmountable no matter what they are because you can honor, right, those parts of you that really, have been through something. And so our conditioning, right, is the thing that keeps us from time to time from recognizing and realizing, you know, what that what that is. Me for myself, there are a lot of reasons I'm able to recognize my conditioning and recognize why um I do certain things, why I act the way I do or whatever. And what I have learned is that the conditioning is so baked in that the only reason I recognize it is because I see, how harmful it is because I'm so much detached from it. So for the last almost 2 years, my 2-year anniversary is coming up in July. I need to have a big party on, I think, July 24th, but I think technically July 20, I think it's 7/20/20, was it technically, but I came up with the concept, and I think the papers are technical 7/24/20 or 7/23/20. I have to check. But anyway, my anniversary, 2-year anniversary is in July. And, when I think back to where I was then and I think to where I am now, now I am telling a different story because I was still, partially in corporate America, at the time, right? We had transferred to working in completely remote. So that was a break, right? Because at least you didn't have to have people looking at you, looking like they just want to, call you the N word to your face, every day, or saying something that was super gross and, overly overtly sexual and unnecessary, or some other kind of slur. So, that was a part of it. And then, when I left corporate America, I was much more able to see what it is like and how my thinking and how the way I operate and how I navigate the world so much differently when I don't have corporate America conditioning in my face in that way. And so, those are things that bring challenges to the workplace, especially around communication, collaboration, and our ability to navigate with as little harm and, fear, and to really be able to, begin to have a more liberative way that we can operate and bring ourselves to work. So, what I want to leave you with is tell your own damn story. You show up to work the way that you want to. Yeah, you know what? They might not like it. You might get all kind of attitude. You might get, eyes rolled at and left out of stuff. But you can walk in there knowing what your own story is and take it at it is what it is. You know how they likely feel about you. Don't worry about going from pet to threat. Go in there, be you, do your thing, but preserve your mental health, preserve your dignity, right, if you can, and really try to think about it from your standpoint of knowing who you are and not letting anybody else tell you who you are. You tell yourself who you are, and you be, right, that beautiful, brilliant, bold ass black queen. You be that, you know, badass brown woman. You be that intelligent, intellectual, kicking ass indigenous femme. You be that awesome ass, Asian woman. You be that fabulous femme of any, you know, background. You be that queen. You slay that shit. You be that bold ass, brilliant, beautiful, bold human being that you was meant to be. And I will see you face to face. Hopefully you'll see my face May 12th, but I will see you next Saturday, 9:35 a.m. Pacific. Oh no, I will be on an airplane. Next Friday, you will see me at 9:35 for the group chat Radical Change with Vonda page live on audio. And then 2 weeks from then, you will see me back on track in my new studio, all set, ready to rock and roll, ready to show you the all new group chat Radical Change with Vonda page. All right, I'm peace out, deuces with you, and see you soon.